The Eagles won't tag CJ Gardner Johnson, but are all signs now pointing toward Philly losing him altogether? And Eagles legend Hugh Douglas says the Birds should trade Darius Slay? Is that something Howie Roseman should think about? Plus, it's rumors and speculation galore. Could the Eagles be considering this top running back? But first, let's run it. Josh Davis here, and we've arrived. We are here Tuesday, the NFL's franchise tag deadline, only a couple hours away. But please make sure to like and subscribe. Really appreciate all the support. We got a lot to jump into, though, here. CJ Gardner Johnson. I know you guys have probably seen on Twitter, but the Eagles will not be using, according to reports, the franchise tag on CJ Gardner Johnson or many Eagles for that matter. So take a look at this article on Pro Football Talk. It says, report, Eagles are not expected to use franchise tag. It says, quote, the Eagles have a long list of pending free agents who will hit the market when the new league year opens next week. They aren't going to reduce that list by one. Philadelphia is not expected to use the franchise tag this year, according to Jeff McClain of the Philadelphia Inquirer. One candidate for the tag was thought to be safety CJ Gardner Johnson. The Eagles acquired him from the Saints at the end of August in exchange for a couple of low-round draft picks. He played 12 games for Philadelphia and recorded a league-leading 6 interceptions. He had a total of 8 passes defended, along with 5 tackles for a loss and a sack. Gardner Johnson was a 4th-round pick in the 2019 draft. Philadelphia has 20 players with expiring contracts, with running backs Miles Sanders, cornerback James Bradbury, and defensive tackle Fletcher Cox among them. GM Howie Roseman has admitted that the team has to be realistic when targeting players to re-sign, as the club won't have all of its free agents back, end quote. Okay, we knew this. We knew that there was the possibility of some of the free agents not being signed, but realistically, did any of us think CJ Gardner Johnson wouldn't be one of them? You may be asking, didn't they say that the franchise tag was going to be used if they couldn't get a long-term deal done? Yeah, that's what they did say. So it's a little bit alarming when you look at it and say, well, obviously no long-term deal has been announced, but the franchise tag is not going to be able to be used at this point now. So it's either, hey, we get a long-term deal signed or nothing else. The luxury that you did have, and this is why I was thinking, okay, you would at least use the franchise tag to buy you some time to get a deal done, was to just slap it on CJ Gardner Johnson and then get a deal figured out. But now that they don't, the question now becomes, is Philly going to lose CJ Gardner Johnson? It's something that I would hate to see, and I'm sure that we all would. I mean, from all the reports, and he just really embodies Philly. He's played incredible. He is a passionate, intense player on defense. We've seen so many different things from what CJ Gardner Johnson does, but now I think this is telling. We've heard that Howie Roseman has said many times, hey, you know what? We're not going to be able to keep all of them. And yeah, as with many times, you get reports about one thing and then it flips and there's something else that comes out, and we know Howie Roseman to be unexpected. But to me, this is something that this would kind of hurt. This is something that I don't think most people would be in favor of. I'm not in favor of. I want CJGJ back. But as you start to look at it, you say, well, there's the realistic possibility that he may not return. And if he doesn't, I mean, trying to look at it a glass half full, at least you could say, hey, you know what? The Eagles are going to get a great return on their investment. The Eagles, like the article mentioned here, exchange a couple low-round draft picks for CJ Gardner Johnson, and they would get a compensatory pick if he went to free agency and signed with another team. And let's remember, there were reports previously, even after the franchise tag potential came out, that CJ Gardner Johnson would be seeking to be the highest paid safety or one of the highest paid safeties. And why shouldn't he? He played like it. He balled out. He should get a great deal. But I think as time's gone on, and now obviously kind of the calm before the storm now, it's starting to see maybe the writing's on the wall. Maybe Howie is not going to sign him back. So be curious to see what you think. What do you guys think? Is a long-term deal still going to get done? Do you think Howie is going to do that? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, so thinking about this defense is going to look different, regardless of if it's CJ Gardner Johnson not coming back or others that we lose. But I was listening yesterday on the midday show on 94 WIP, and Hugh Douglas had brought up a very interesting point, or a controversial topic, really. But he's talking about maybe thinking about trading Darius Slay.
Probably the most important to me is being on a good roster, having the ability to get to the playoffs and make a run in the playoffs, but also, I don't want to play for cheap,
No one does. Welcome back. WIP Midday Show. Hugh Douglas, Joe Giglio, Kyle Quinn behind the glass. You guys with us. 215-592-9494. the voice there, of course, of James Bradberry set to hit free agency next week, Hugh. And like, I think a lot of people have just kind of resigned themselves to the fact that the Eagles won't have the money. They can't re-sign this guy. They won't bring him back. But Hugh, there is a way here to move some money around. And what about this? And we kind of talked about it a little bit in the last hour. You know, if Darius Slay isn't happy or Darius Slay maybe doesn't love the idea of Matt Patricia being here, Hugh Douglas, would you entertain the idea of trading Slay to re-sign Bradberry?
I think that's probably on the table. You know, when you talk about, and listen, everybody, this is all rumor and innuendo because I don't know. But when you talk about potentially hiring somebody that is clearly not, nobody's a fan of Matt Patricia. Well, Slay's not a fan of Matt Patricia, I should say.
Most probably aren't.
Yeah, most probably aren't. And for you to even consider that, I think that there is somewhere where, you know, Darius Slay might be expendable. And then on top of that, you talk about the way that this defense played, the secondary in particular. I think that there's probably a chance that they might want to upgrade at that position. There's been a lot of conversation about bringing in another corner or going younger at that position. And I think that when you take that, coupled with the fact that, you know, there's some talk about bringing Matt Patricia here, there might be something there. There might be something to all of that.
So there's a lot of play here. 215-592-9494. You, I'm with you on this. If I'm Howie Roseman, I would consider trading Darius Slay and trying to re-sign Bradberry. A couple things. One, Bradberry's younger by a couple years. So maybe he's got a couple extra years left in the tank that Darius Slay does. And just off this year, Hugh, I thought Bradberry played better over the course of the season. Slay seemed to start out better.
And then kind of curtailed a little bit.
Yeah, week 2. I thought Slay's best game was week 2 when he covered Justin Jefferson a lot of the night and really did a good job. But, you know, he kind of tailed off as the season went along. Bradberry played better or played, you know, just as well the whole season. And the Eagles, depending on how they structure this, if they designate a Slay trade a post-June 1st type of thing, which you could do in the NFL, they would actually save $17.5 million on the cap by trading Slay if they do it, you know, at a certain point and do it in a certain way. So it would free up some room here.
That's a very interesting argument to be made. Obviously, it's Darius Slay, and I think my immediate reaction, especially whenever I heard it yesterday, is, oh, this is ludicrous. This is crazy. Why in the world would Howie Roseman decide to do this or even think about it? But as we've seen today now, I'm a little bit shocked that CJGJ is not getting a franchise tag, and we're starting to look at the possibility of losing him. Is Howie considering, you know what, hey, we're going to free up even more space and even more room. Already you're going to get you'll have 12 picks in total because of the compensatory picks for 2024. I mean, that's a realistic possibility because we're not going to sign all the free agents, and it's looking like more and more that most of them are going to leave. So then you also throw in this, and Hugh makes an interesting point. Do you consider trading Darius Slay and then maybe keeping James Bradberry instead? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Would you prefer to keep Slay or would you prefer to go after or keep Bradberry? I just always kind of resigned to the fact that Bradberry's going to walk. He's going to get a great deal. He played good last season, but Slay's the guy. Slay's going to still be here. And while Slay offers a lot, don't get me wrong, he's incredible. And I think that his ability to coach and to mentor and to be there for the young guys, there's an argument to be made that you could say, you know what, James Bradberry was better last season and will be better because the age factor, kind of like they alluded to there in the clip. But he's 32. Darius Slay is 32 years old. And if we remember correctly, let's look back at some of the corners most recently. I can think about, you know, some of the stud cornerbacks that really declined quickly. Darrelle Revis, Richard Sherman. I mean, that cliff is about 31, 32. Slay's 32. So how much more can he do this? I know that he said on his podcast, hey, I can do this. I can do it for another year or two. I want to be in Philly. I want to be playing at a high level. That's all great, but everybody wants to be playing at a high level. The question is, can he? It might be a more sure thing to go with Bradberry. If you look at last season, obviously Slay played great in the first couple games, but he definitely started to fall off. I mean, not terribly, but he played not as great or strong as he did in the first couple games, whereas if you look at Bradberry, he was probably a little more consistent. At the same time, on the flip side, you can make the argument, well, Slay was guarding a lot of the top receivers, or most all the top receivers, and when Bradberry had wide receiver too. Yeah, I could see that. Maybe Bradberry wasn't as great as Slay, or Slay's numbers could have been better if he was guarding the second best receiver on the team. But it's still an interesting argument to be made. So like I say, let me know in the comments below. Should the Eagles trade Slay? Should they consider it? Is Bradbury the better target? Let me know in the comments below. Another interesting article, though, that I saw and kind of pertains to Slay, and this would be maybe alluding to or helping the argument of, hey, let's keep Darius Slay, is found this on NBC Sports, but take a look here. So this article is by Dave Zangaro, but he says, Slay eager to meet Eagles' new defensive coordinator and help ease his transition. So it says, quote, Darius Slay is eager to meet the Eagles' new defensive coordinator, Sean Desai, and is hoping to ease Desai's transition in Philadelphia. While Slay was a big supporter of Dennard Wilson, the Eagles' former defensive backs coach who was an internal candidate for a promotion, Slay said he wants to make things easy for Desai. Speaking on the Big Play Slay podcast on The Volume last week, Slay expressed his desire as one of the incumbent veteran leaders to help Desai to make sure the other players are buying in. He said, quote, I can't wait to meet the new DC, man, Slay said, because I'm going to tell you, knowing the new DC, it can be tough or it can be easy. You know what I'm saying? And I'm one of them guys that's going to make it easy for him. I'm going to go in here willing to learn, willing to figure out how he wants his defense ran, because me being a leader and a captain on this team, that's my job to do. Make sure everyone is buying into the program, end quote. Slay, then the article kind of talks about, Slay being first-time captain last year, but just the different possibilities that the team is looking at and what they should consider. But obviously, Slay being a big vocal leader in the locker room, it's good for him to kind of rally the troops, get them in line and say, you know what, let's support this. This is our new defensive coordinator. We need to move forward. And I think that's big, especially for the comments like the article alluded to of Slay previously backing Dennard Wilson. So there could have been a little bit of, kind of shakiness in the room, but him coming out is a big deal. Now, you ask the question, what about Matt Patricia? You do have an issue there. There's a question of, hey, what would the Eagles do? And is Slay going to be on board? We've already heard and kind of seen from his previous comments. That would not be great for the locker room. I know Elliott Shore-Parks and many others on Twitter were blasting the decision of the Eagles to even potentially consider Matt Patricia. But I think what we've seen so far, and definitely today and even in the past few days, and we'll probably see moving forward, the Eagles are leaving no stone unturned. They're considering every possibility. And so while I don't think it would be a great idea for the locker room, and I mentioned on yesterday's show, this is something that we have to look at. But I do think, again, this speaks to Slay's leadership. This speaks to how he's looked up to by many of the players, especially on the defense. And he's saying, hey, guys, this is our new defensive coordinator, and I support him 100%. I'm willing to get in there. I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to make everyone better. So curious to see what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. But again, it'll be interesting to see what we do today, tomorrow, the upcoming days in free agency. We'll be discussing more on a live show tomorrow with Thomas Mott, 7 o'clock Eastern. So be sure to check that out. Okay, moving on real quickly here. The other story, and I know I wanted to touch on this real quick too, is Dennard Wilson is going to be hired by the Ravens, defensive backs coach. There's some rumors that although at the first report there was a mutual agreement of the separation, that maybe Nick fired him. I'm not sure. There's going back and forth. People saying that yes, this was the Philadelphia Inquirer saying that it was a firing. Others that are saying there's no way. So we'll monitor that and see how it plays out. Ultimately, though, I'll still kind of hold to what I've been saying. Dennard Wilson was a fantastic coach. I hate to see him go. I know that new coordinators come in with new programs, but he will do a phenomenal job in Baltimore. I think he'll be fantastic. So the other news yesterday, you guys may have seen this, Derrick Henry has been linked to the Philadelphia Eagles, and that keeps coming up. The odds yesterday, as they're talking about, oh, hey, the Titans may be looking to move on from Derrick Henry or shop him around. So according to bookies.com, the Eagles' odds to land Derrick Henry, the 2023 team odds, was plus 400, but second place here, as you can see in the graphics. So second place behind only the Titans. Now, that's interesting because that was a little bit earlier this morning, and then a report came out not long after that, from CBS Sports. Take a look here. Again, this is from CBS Sports, but they're talking about, is there any validity to the Derrick Henry reports or anything else? But it says here, quote, I know there's talk that the Titans are shopping running back Derrick Henry, but my sources tell me they are not. I had been told general manager Rand Carthen would be methodical in his approach to free agency and changes to the team. The releases of tackle Taylor Lewin and receiver Robert Woods weren't surprising, and cutting loose edge rusher Bud Dupree also makes sense. I don't believe the Titans see any any tangible free agent upgrade at quarterback over Ryan Tannehill. And taking away the most essential part of the offense in Henry would indicate Tennessee is tanking more than anything. The Titans can very much contend in the AFC South, and they'll have to do that with Henry, end quote. The AFC South is not super competitive. And so, yeah, the article makes an interesting point, and I'd be curious to know, who are his sources, who are the sources here in this article. But I don't think that Philly was ever in the running for Derrick Henry. I know we've mentioned other running backs before, Saquon Barkley, Dalvin Cook, names just keep popping up. But again, Howie does not value the running back position. We don't see it hardly ever. And so I don't expect the Eagles to go after this. Be curious to see. It would shock the world. It could be a great tandem, sure. I just don't think you have the luxury to go after someone like Derrick Henry. Now, if CJ Gardner Johnson is gone and basically all these free agents on defense are gone, maybe you're freeing up enough cap space to say Howie's like, you know what, we're going to load up the offense. We're changing things. It's going to be a completely brand new look defense, but we are going to have one of the most explosive and dominant offenses out there. I would be very fearful if I'm a defense and looking at an offense that has Jalen Hurts and Derrick Henry in an RPO type of offense. That would be incredible, but I don't think that that's going to happen. We'll see. Other rumors or I guess news, I know Derek Carr signed with the Saints. Be curious to see what that does next year. Could hurt the 2024 second round draft pick that we have. So, worth monitoring how the Saints do. They're obviously probably going to play or win more games now with Carr. And then also the news you guys have probably seen, but Aaron Rodgers, it's looking like the Jets may be a possibility. So we'll continue to monitor that as well as all the other news, the other stories and everything else. So be sure to check out the show tomorrow. Again, live show, 7:00 Eastern on Thomas Mott channel. But we will have that and all the breakdown for you. So be sure to check that out. Also, please make sure to like and subscribe. Really appreciate all the support as always. But until next time, I'm Josh Davis, and this has been the Philly Special.